Employment is a key domain of life for many of us. It provides us opportunity to interact with the community, to earn an income, to live independently, pay our bills, own a house. For people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, these dreams are the same, but the opportunities are not the same. People with intellectual developmental disabilities are not in the workforce in the same rates as the general population. And the labor force participation rate, the number of people either looking for work or employed, is in the low double digits. And the employment rate of people with disabilities isn't too far off. Our service systems that we've invested heavily in to provide employment services and supports to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, they are not producing the outcomes that we hope. At best, we're achieving 50% of people touching some of these systems finding employment. I believe this is unacceptable, and we have a lot of work to do. Despite these challenges and these obstacles that we face, we've come a long way. We've been fortunate to have quality interventions that we know work for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we've got many of them. We've got different models of support. We've got career assessments so people can understand what they want to do and where their skills rest. We have job search and job placement supports that really effectively connect people with intellectual and developmental disabilities with employers in the community. And we have ongoing on-the-job supports that are effective at either developing supports on the job of other coworkers without disabilities that can provide natural existing supports, or supports that the field itself, support providers, can provide to people with disabilities on the job. These are important, and we know that they work. We also know that there's a demand for employment. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities want to work in the community, in a job of their choosing, an individual job at an employer, a regular employer, just like all of us. We know that even people in more isolated settings, such as a shelter workshop, actually want to work in the community in these settings. And we also know that policies are changing today. Policies, for the first time ever, are coming in line to really put employment at the forefront of the service system, recognizing that not only do people want to work, but now with policies that can incentivize and really provide opportunities for people to get the services and supports, that maybe we can make some changes. But we do have some problems in our field, and I am going to lay out 3 problems and then some solutions that I think can help get us closer to where we want to be. First, our existing infrastructure, our formal services and supports, we've got a problem. We invest billions and billions of dollars into these systems, yet the employment outcomes that we are able to achieve in those are quite minimal. They are not high by any stretch of our imagination. We know that we have access problems in our formal systems, such as our Medicaid waiver programs, our vocational rehabilitation programs. Not everyone who wants or needs these services are able to access those. We also know that these services provide a lot of money towards provider systems, which are really important, but they tend to be a very specialized industry that provide highly specialized services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This is important, but as we look to sustainability, we have to think about how we deliver employment services differently. That's a problem. The second problem I see is the interventions that we've developed. They're effective. They're very effective. Yet we've trapped these interventions in the highly specialized service system, thus trapping them and preventing them from actually making their way to many people who could use them, such as a family member. Family members could use many of these interventions, and they could actually implement them on their own. Yet we've trapped them away and housed them in the specialized services, saying, if you want them, you have to come to the formal services. This creates a major problem, because the third problem that I lay out here is most people with intellectual and developmental disabilities don't actually use formal services and supports, meaning that these interventions that we've developed, that we've trapped away in these formal systems, will never make their way into the hands of the masses of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities that don't touch the Medicaid waiver programs, vocational rehabilitation. We need to make these interventions much more accessible. When I think of these challenges that we face in the field, one of the first solutions I see that we need to address is our formal service system. Right now we are in the mentality of all or nothing, and I think we need to rethink. I believe we need to rethink this all or nothing mentality of our formal service system. And let's take for example the Medicaid waiver programs. This is a system that provides highly specialized long-term services and supports, critical supports to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And they provide services across the lifespan, as well as a variety of services such as residential services, employment services, and beyond. For many entering into this system, they gain access to the breadth of specialized services. Specialized services are critical in the world of employment, but not everybody needs the intensive employment services. And by gaining access to those, we may be overserving people in a way that is actually preventing many other people who need intensive services to gain access to those. And I think as a field, we need to have an honest debate about this that includes all the stakeholders, but one that we realize that the sustainability of this field rests on how we implement services. And if I am a person who doesn't need all of these services, yet I'm accessing them, I am using resources that could be provided to other people who then could gain access to employment. And I think that's a really important place that we start and begin our dialogue. It's in order to rethink our current existing system. As of now, we've trapped these interventions within this formal system. As a field, we need to work hard at expanding access to these services and these types of supports. And to do this, we need to bring in family members and learn what they need. We need to have an expectation that as we develop these interventions, that we are identifying strategies to implement them well beyond the formal system. I understand the formal system is where much of the money rests, and there isn't maybe as much out there for people who don't have formal services. But for this field of intellectual and developmental disabilities, in order to change the numbers, we have to be on it. We have to be realistic and expand it out to the people who aren't in these systems, and we have to find strategies to do that. And then the third solution that I have is really about how we can expand it out. And I strongly believe that we need to get out of our heavily funded provider system to a degree. And we need to start investing in communities. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities, like everybody else, reside in communities. And most people who don't have formal supports rely on these communities to achieve their life goals and to get through every day, just like everybody else. If we can start building the capacity of our communities to better serve people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as everybody else in the area of employment, then we do a service for everybody. One great example is putting faith to work, where we work with faith communities to work with job seekers to find employment. And we help these faith communities also support people with disabilities. So really, they're including everybody, including people with disabilities. And by providing supports to communities and local communities to build their capacity to solve the problems within their communities, such as the low employment rate of people with disabilities, we can touch the lives of many, many more people. In the field of intellectual and developmental disabilities and employment, we need to have an honest discussion about where we are and where we're headed. Far too many people are left unemployed, not leading the lives that they want. And every day, more people enter this space of unemployment, long-term unemployment, that will affect their lives forever. And until we come to terms with things have to change, this will continue. So as a field, I implore us all to have a real honest and frank discussion about where we need to go. Thank you.